All right, so for this live stream, I will be doing weekly analysis. A weekly forecast and some market analysis for maybe some of the individual stocks and maybe crypto. Okay, so let's start off with ES. Right, on a weekly chart, we have the breaker here, and we have unfinished business above. Right, I believe we're gonna reach into this volume imbalance and with regards to the sell side, I'm still um, putting it on hold. Okay, I want to see how Monday and Tuesday trades. Right. So breaking down into the lower time frames, we can see that the Friday here it attacked the daily fair value gap right here, which is a bullish fair value gap, a busy. So next week I want to see if price would retrace upwards into this area here. We have a volume imbalance and we have a daily CB as well, right? So that's my main objective for next week. And I believe we do have SMT with NASDAQ as well. So let's head over to NASDAQ. Right, so for NASDAQ, Friday did not take out Thursday's low, right? So this by itself is SMT. So, with this in mind, if we were to break market structure on the 4 hours or maybe even the 1 hour, I would incline to think that we're going to go higher. For Nasdaq, it would be this buy stops right here, right? But for Nasdaq, I would much prefer targeting the rejection block due to the fact that it has been running consistently non-stop, right? So I think it's safer to target the rejection block for Nasdaq. And in any case, if it breaks lower, right? As I've mentioned, I need to see how Monday and Tuesday trades. Then the weekly objective would be this equal lows down here. Okay. All right. Now heading back into the dollar, I'm gonna build my bias slowly. Okay, as I move from the futures indices futures to the dollar. So right here, the dollar, we can see that we have created a weekly CB right here. So I want to see if um, dollar trades beyond the CB and above this green balance price range. Okay, if it finds resistance here, then I would target the lows here. But if it can close above, then of course, obviously, we will look at the buy side. So right now it's in range, or it's within this ceiling range still. So I wouldn't want to call swing moves just yet. Okay. So heading down into the lower time frames, we can see that on daily we have broken market structure, right? So right here, this is the breaker. On the 4 hours, it's even much clearer, right? So we have a low, lower low, and the high then made the lower low. We have closed above. We have a fair value gap, and we have a breaker as well. So this is what ICT calls a unicorn. So any price retracements into this fair value gap and into the breakers, mean threshold or whatsoever, as long as it's within this breaker here, it's a buy. And what are you targeting? You're targeting the highs here and probably the relative equal highs over here. All right. So next week, heading to next week, my bias for dollar would be bullish, right? And if dollar is to be bullish, then perhaps it would cap some upside for the futures indices. But as you have known from for the past few weeks, it hasn't been correlating nicely. So um, I would not rely on it too much, right? Now let's head to the euro dollar. Right, euro dollar is basically the mirror image of the XY itself. So we have this sell stops, and we have the breaker here, higher highs as well, coming down breaker, right? And what else can we use for this um, what do you call it, for targets? Okay, if this is going to continue lower, I will look at this relative equal lows down here. Okay, so I just want to take a look at the GBP to see if there is any SMTs, right, especially on the daily. Right, so as you can see here, there's a SMT formed on the 4 hours and on the daily itself. So for British pound, right, it's refusing to make higher highs as compared to the dollar and euro dollar. So most likely, this is a confirmation, right? So I would much inclined to think that the dollar is gonna rally next week. So for British pound, what I'm thinking is maybe you can use this breaker here. So any retracements into this breaker and or into this order block, I would use that as a short into what? Into the sell sides down here. So let me just take a look at the daily to see if there's any fair value gaps that we can utilize. Right, this is a good area for targets. Okay, this small little fair value gap down here, coupled with this balanced price range. And on the weekly, we do have um, this order block, right? One, two, three. Yep, you can target the open on this order block here as well. So yeah, if it closes below the mean threshold of this entire order block, then I would much inclined to think that we're going lower. I will look at the volume imbalance over here and the sell side right here. Okay, so right now you have my bias, bullish on the dollar, bearish on foreigns, and maybe just maybe a little bearishness on the futures equities, right? Futures markets, I mean futures indices. Okay, trying to find the correct term for it. So if I am bearish for ES, let's head back to ES, okay? If I'm bearish for ES, then obviously I would target the sell side right here. But because we have a SMT on the daily, I want to see if we are able to um, shift market structure higher, right? As of now, it hasn't shifted yet, okay? On the 4 hours, as you can see, you need to take out this swing high right here in order to justify a bullish scenario. And if it breaks above this order block here, then we could utilize this as the breaker to attack the volume imbalance above. So we are still waiting. I'm still waiting for confirmation on the futures index. Okay, so that's my bias for the weekly forecast. So next, I think we can jump into some of the individual stocks, cryptos, and maybe gold. So I'm more interested in crypto. Oops, almost typed crypto. So I'm gonna take a look at Bitcoin. Right. So for Bitcoin, everything's still going according to plan. Right. This was what I had before, and I'm expecting price to take out the buy stops right here, 32,000, and maybe it just wants to reach into the mean threshold of the breaker, and as well as the consequent encroachment of this monthly CB here, which would be at about 35,000, right? And from there, I'm expecting a sell-off because on the higher time frames, what can you derive is that we have a high here and a higher high, we broke the low that made the high. So this low right here is actually a breaker. Okay, and we have a monthly breaker, so that should be significant. So for Bitcoin, bullish until 32 and bearish onwards. I mean bearish above 32. Okay, that's my bias. And previously, as I've annotated down, that this breaker would be the best buy, right? If it ever comes down into this breaker here, it's the best buy, and look what happened, right? So this breaker, I think you can see it on the monthly. No, I don't think so. Right, so it's only on the weekly. So weekly breaker, how do I utilize this? Right, basically lows here, lower low, the high that made this low, right? And there you have it. Just like over here, we have we have a low here, lower low, the high that made this low, and then we have a fair value gap here, as ICT likes to call this, a unicorn. Price came into this breaker and this fair value gap, punched it right through the equal highs here into this fair value gaps as well. Okay, so from for this level here, 10k, where what am I looking at? Basically, it's just another breaker. All right, lows here, lower low, and then we have a breaker. So I'm expecting some form of reaction of this area, and if not, then easily you can define the next liquidity that's going to attack would be the equal lows at 3000. So this is for Bitcoin. Okay, now let's take a look at gold. Right, so because gold, it's in the weekly consequent encroachment. I mean, weekly BC right here. Okay, because we have a bullish dollar analysis, I will incline to think that we're going to go lower for gold, but eventually it's still bullish unless it closes below this BC right here. Okay, bullish until it closes below the BC. This is for gold. Okay, gold can consolidate. It might not need to drop as Dixie rallies, but it can consolidate as well. So yeah, if you're still bullish, you want to see consolidation within this area here, right? And instead of just punching through it, right? So currently next week I would be bearish on gold. Okay. Um which by itself is not that of a good um, reaction, right? Because you see that this wick closes within the breaker here. So any closure below the consequent encroachment, that is a warning sign, right? So let's see how it presents itself next week. Right, so let's head on to the individual stocks, right? Previously I have covered Tesla. Right, so for Tesla, this was my final targets, right? This liquidity void here, but eventually it did breach up to close up this volume imbalance, right? So right here, because we're bearish, I mean we're bullish on Dixie, bearish on equities, I would incline to think that we're gonna go down. Okay, for Tesla, right? Tesla going down doesn't mean that S&P is gonna go down. Okay, so individual stocks, you trade it individually based on its individual price action, right? You don't try to link it up with the indexes. I mean, that's what I've learned, but it would have a it would be heavy if the index falls, but if the index chooses to rally instead, then um yeah, we could see something like this, right? So how am I utilizing this area here? We have the breaker, the weekly breaker, same thing, weekly breaker that is in discount, and it's somewhere around this balance price range that was used to send the price higher and lower before. So this is the true support resistance level. Okay, I mean, if you were to trade support resistance, this would be the true support resistance, right? So I want to see if it offers something like this, and then we attack the equal highs up here and maybe even overextend, right? If ES is to attack the volume balance, I think that is possible, right? So next up we have um, Nvidia, Nvidia. Okay, so Nvidia, I have my projections up, right? So basically, you use the fibs as I've mentioned before in my previous videos. Oops, this is not the fib. Sorry about that. Right, use the lowest body closures and the highest body closures of the last um, sell stop rate. Okay, and then you project it out. So this is one, negative two, I mean two, 2.5. So prices has been closing above 2.5. So I'm thinking it's going to reach to 4. Right, if this is going to be the top, I'm not too sure, but it has a good possibility of being the top. Okay, right. So what's the concept behind this measurement, right? So as long as price closes above 2.5 deviation, most likely is going to reach into the fourth deviation. All right, I learned this from Fair Value God, so do check him out. He has very nice educational content, right, for with regards to trading. Yeah, so this is for Nvidia, right? So next, let's head over to Meta. So for Meta, it is going to invalidate the bearish idea. Okay, if you look at the monthly chart, it's very clear here we're in a monthly breaker, and price doesn't seem to even respect the mean threshold. So closure above the mean threshold here, it's a warning sign, and if it's gonna go higher, then I would much um, think that it's gonna go for new all-time highs for Meta. And if that's the case, then more reason for Nasdaq to rally. Okay. Um, what's next? Amazon. Amazon. What's the symbol? I don't really look at or trade these individual stocks anymore. Right. So right here it's pretty obvious. It's going for this buy stops and maybe this equal highs here. Breaking down into the week. Oh my god, it's quite a mess. So I'm just gonna remove this first. Right. So right here, similar to Tesla, this is the so-called balanced price range. As you can see, directions over here. So we have closed and left above the balanced price range, which is why I'm inclined to think that we're going up. All right, but as you can see, the price action here is it doesn't really give you any entries, right? So you can basically just buy this volume balance or buy any retracements into down close candles, okay, for your bullish idea. But I think the buy stops are next, right? Above the buy stops, we have fair value gaps, right? This is a unfilled fair value gap right here, I think, or maybe yeah, it's almost unfilled. Okay, let's just put it that way. Right. So Amazon, I'm looking at this sell side. I mean this buy side right here. So let me draw that line. Let me draw the level. Right, for Apple. Right, many people have been interested in Apple recently because it has made new all-time highs. Right, so Apple, what's the projections? Right, for new all-time highs, I usually use projections. Okay, I'm looking at basically 200 and 221, right? Previously, I have this annotated because the last swing high that made this low here was this candle. Is it? Is it this one? If I'm not wrong, it should be this one. Then I think I used this, or maybe not. I forgot which area that I used previously. But let's just take a look at the daily chart. Maybe I used this, but to make things simpler, right? I'm gonna use this low here with this high here. Okay, this was the high that made the lows here below this south side and this south side. So I'm gonna use this high here. Okay, as value wave traders would call it, the impulse. Okay, so we have the first objective met, which is the first standard deviation. Next up, we have the second standard deviation, which will be at around 207. 207. Okay, and maybe even 1.5 would be enough. So it all depends, right? But I'm looking at 207. Okay, that's my projection for Apple. And what else? Let's take a look at Chinese stocks. Hmm, Probably just one or two. Right, so we'll start off with the Hang Seng Index. On the weekly chart, obviously, you can see that the weekly candle closes below this balanced price range. So I want to see if it wants to leave in this range here and then attack the sell side. And if so, lower prices. And I'm looking at 1300. Is it? No, 13,000. Sorry, 13,683. That's the low here that this low failed to take it out. Right, so I think it's on the monthly chart. Oh no, it's not the low, but it's the volume imbalance on the monthly. So that could be a good target, right? So if it's gonna continue lower, then yeah, for that means heavier prices for Chinese individual stocks, for example, Baba, right? So initially, I have a bullish idea for Baba, right? A closure above this balanced price range or this fair value gap here would confirm my bullishness, but eventually we did not get that. Price rejected off this area and closed below again. Right, so usually for fair value gaps, when you see a closure within the fair value gap, you want to see the next candle give you a displacement away from the fair value gap to indicate that you're on the side, like for example in this case you are short. So to 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 confirm or to give me confidence that I am on side, any candle closures within this fair value gap on that specific time frame, right? So because I'm now on a weekly time frame, utilizing a weekly fair value gap, any weekly candle closures above or within this fair value gap, I want to see immediate rejection away from this fair value gap on the very next candle. That would indicate that I am on side and I am confident in holding the shorts to my targets. Okay, that's how I read the price. And because it has taken out the buy stops here, it has no reason to come up this area again. Okay, right now this is a swing high, so invalidation would be this area here and shorts anywhere within this order block. So my targets would be obviously this area here. We have volume imbalances and it lines up nicely with the monthly order blocks mean threshold. That's the level. Okay, and eventually I'm looking at this equal lows down here. So now, um, this is for Baba, so let's head over to New. So as you can see overall, it's pretty bearish for Chinese equities. Okay, for New we have, look at the lows here, right? pretty clean. So hmm, I haven't looked at this chart for quite a while, but from here I can see that we have taken buy stops, and then we have a volume imbalance here, and we have a unfilled fair value gap down here. Right. So if it was to continue lower, then this level here, let's annotate down the price. Okay. First of all, we have this volume imbalance. I think this would be a easy target once this swing low is attacked. Okay, it's gonna melt down after it attacks the swing low here. Okay, to what extent? Okay, maximum. Let me just use this here. 581 and 4.2. Okay, so this is for new. Let's take a look at the monthly chart. Um, right, because it has reached into a monthly um, fair value gap, I was expecting some form of reaction, but that's all we got back into the order block and then rejection lower. So right here, this volume balance, as I've annotated previously on the weekly chart, it lines up nicely nearing the consequent encroachment of this entire um, monthly fair value gap. So that's nice to see. So you have a good confluence there for targets. Okay, and I think that's about it. Covered quite a lot. Oh, maybe one last one. I just missed out. Palantir. 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 This is going to be the last one. Alright, almost 30 minutes in. So for Palantir, we have somewhat of an unfinished business. We have this fair value gap here, right? And we have this breaker. Yep, we have this breaker. So I think for me myself, if I was to buy Palantir, I would like this fair value gap. Okay, we have a breaker here, and we have a fair value gap here that's within the breaker and within the balanced price range as well. So I would only buy in this area. The rest, not too interested, right? And I think that's it for Palantir. Still here, my eyes is still here. I think we take this out before we even consider any form of um, bear rally or bear crash. Okay, and obviously anything can change, right? Don't take my forecast and then you go full leverage, right? Anything can change because as you can see, Russia, right? Not going to talk too much about that. So that's all for this live stream, and I hope you find this insightful. And if so, do leave a comment or leave a like, and I'll see you guys. I think on Monday. Let me just check um, the calendar for next week. Next week, what do we have? What do we have? Okay, Monday, no news. Tuesday, we have red folders and orange folders, so medium and high impact news for 8:30 and 10. Wednesday, we have 9:30. Oh my. Oh, Wednesday, we have Jerome Powell speaking. I mean, I don't like it when he speaks. Obviously, you can tell from this week's price action. There were 2 days in which he has spoken. Price action hasn't been really nice. All right, so next Thursday we have 8:30 and 10 o'clock. Friday we have 8:30 as well and 10 o'clock. So I think next week could be great since we have a strong bias on the dollar and slightly strong bias on the equities based on the daily SMT. All right, and that's it for this video. And good luck trading and have a nice weekend. Have a great weekend.